All right, everybody, welcome to Shelf Space. This is episode 8. Um, I'm with you again. We got Charles with us again and
Hey
Gina up
everybody.
there.
Hello.
But enough with us. Nobody wants to hear us talk today because we have a special guest. That's Marco Plouffe. He's a digital artist and sculptor. You've probably seen a lot of his work. Worked with all the big name companies: XM, Sideshow, Prime One. What have you done here? Anti Venom, the Shogun Batman, Punisher, Wolverine. So it's a huge resume, but you do also a lot more than that: gaming, film. So we're going to get into all of that. So Marco, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here.
Very
It's,
much.
yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. It's pretty cool. It's nice to realize that we're all local.
Yeah, as you can see, Marco is also a Montrealer, as same with Charles. So they were able to do this from the same location, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's just get right into things here. Gina and Charles, I'll let you take it away.
Well, one of the things we're going to be talking about the old, we're going to be talking about the new, we're going to be talking about the future, just get a sense of what Marco's been up to. And we're also going to have time later on in the show to take some questions. So if you guys have some questions for Marc Olivier, by all means, please chime in. So we're just going to start, we're going to get right into it, and we're going to ask, like, how did you break into the business? How did you know this was something that you wanted to do for a living?
Well, like there's like two ways to answer because like there's either like the business of collectible, which is one thing, or also like the business like in general, like in 3D, let's say. So I don't know like which one do you prefer to know? I can tell both at the same time. It's fine.
Oh, well, you're the guest. There's got to be something that made you feel like I love this and I can't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
And that goes hand in hand with realizing that you're good at it, right?
Yeah,
it's one thing to say I want to be a singer. It's another thing to say that I think I could make a living at this.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where we're headed with the question.
Okay, that's interesting actually. Yeah, that's nice. Well, just to give you like an idea, I'm not really from Montreal. I'm actually from Gatineau, which is a city close to Ottawa, and it's
still part of La Belle Province,
yeah,
so everybody knows.
Still part of Quebec. And the thing is, like when I was younger, I was drawing all the time, but I've never actually learned any like I've never went to like school for like arts and stuff. So I was always like doodling and doing my drawings, and people were like, "Oh, you draw so well," but in reality, like it was fine, right? But at some point, when I was like 13 or like 15 years old, 14, whatever, and you're in high school and people are asking you like, "What do you want to do later?" and you realize that like the thing that you like, which for me was drawing for video games. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to draw for video games. And I realized, well, there's like nothing, no school like around me, like to teach me or
not
or
at the
whatever.
time, no.
Yeah, not at the time. Like probably now, because like that's like 10 years ago. Like, well, I know 15. That's like 17 years ago that I asked myself this question.
Yeah, right.
Basically.
Yeah, you started to make us feel old there. Okay, 17 years I can handle.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I didn't. I just went for like a safer option. I went to study like in computer science, and I worked for 3 years for the government as like a technician, an IT technician for the government. And at some point, I realized that I actually needed to do something that's more like that gives me like value in my life and everything. And unfortunately for me, the job in computer science was not really my deal. I'm more like an artist at art.
Creative.
Yeah, exactly. I needed to do something creative, and like either if it wasn't drawing and this and that, I don't know. And I talked to one of my friend, and my friend was like, "Well, you love video game clearly, and you draw all the time, even if it's just doodles and stuff. So like, why don't you go study in a 3D school, like at a 3D modeling school or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds about right. Like that's cool. It's great. It's hard. It was a big sacrifice because like I needed to like sell my house.
You have
I
to pay
needed
the
to,
bills at the same time, right?
yeah,
It'd be
exactly,
a,
Yeah,
be
exactly.
a
live in the
tough,
back of his
yeah.
van.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was like in the back of my head, I was like, well, I can sell my house. It's going to give me like enough money to pay rent for a while. I made zero money by selling my house because
Oh
my
no.
mortgage was like a huge problem. But anyway, I mean, it was okay. I was able to do it. But like I moved to Montreal. I said bye to my friend, my family. Like it's not that far, but whatever.
An hour and a half.
Yeah, it's like
cares.
yeah, exactly. It's like an hour and a half, so it's really nothing. But it's just like still they're not around, right? So I have to meet new people, and it's like a new life at the same time. But like I kind of like felt that I needed to do it because I needed to do something creative, and that's like how I ended up studying in 3D. And from there, I actually started more like in video games and such because the school was more about video games. But after like a while, after working for video games for a while, I needed to be able to work on something that feels more finished, because the thing about video games is that you do like a character that's like in a like like those like neutral T pose like this,
Right.
and then like they actually like rig it and then it moves and then you have it in the video game. So like sometimes
Right.
it feels like you're not necessarily like there for the whole ride, and I actually wanted to get to a medium that feels closer to the final product, which actually turned out to be doing sculptures. Because doing sculptures, you do the character like this, and then after a certain while, well, you put it in a pose, and then you finish everything like in the pose, and then you have the pretty much what is the final product. I mean, there's the printing, there's the painting, so yeah, there's like a ton of things to do afterwards, and I'm never the only artist working on something because of all that. But clearly, the the fact that I am closer to the end product made me feel like better, like prouder, I guess.
Well, sure, you can tie yourself more to the
Well,
end
yeah,
product.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not this vague concept anymore. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
I made his head that way, or
Yeah.
I had something in that costume design.
Yeah, totally,
You know,
exactly. It's like
you-
like you can say like, oh, the expression I was really aiming for like that story and that feeling and that sort of stuff, and it is nice, and it's something that's like a little. It's harder to do when you do something that is very sterile, like the T pose
Sure,
video
sure.
game character, right? So
So how did your work eventually get recognized? Because you worked with XM, you worked with Prime One, you worked with Sideshow. How did you eventually get noticed by these guys? Because
yeah.
eventually they had to see something you did to say, we want this guy to come over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that something that I started to do at the beginning of my career was to really put myself out there. And I had a great window at the very beginning of my career when I was actually done with school. I was supposed to go work for Ubisoft, but things that didn't really pan out. And I ended up like having 6 months to myself and like pretty much nothing to do. So I was like, well, the best thing that I can do is to make my portfolio bigger, because
Sure.
the more stuff you have, the more impressive it is. The more you show like different stuff, the more people are going to see that you're versatile. Blah blah blah. And I ended up doing some stuff on my own, and somebody from a forum. Okay, so ZBrush is the software that I use.
Right.
Pixelogic is the company that does ZBrush, and Pixelogic, their CFO, if I'm not mistaken, their CFO is somebody called Yemi Labelle, which is a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
And he sent me like a
Very
private
cool
message.
guy. We're
Pretty cool
saying
guy.
a very cool guy.
Yeah.
And he sent me a private message asking me if I wanted to be part of the beta testing of their software, ZBrush. I was already using ZBrush all the time.
Someone just seeing your stuff kind of like randomly
Yeah.
chanced upon your stuff and say, hey, you know, we like this guy.
Yeah, exactly. But also I think it was important for me to be new, because like when they beta test, they want to have like newer people, older people, just to have like a fresher look and stuff. So I actually had this opportunity to work with a lot of like really good artists with that software. And when I was done, they made like a big publicity, and like my name came up like with all the other names, and I did like 2 characters for the beta testing. So it was already like a lot of stuff to show. And I think that just by doing that and some other things, like, I mean, contacts and luck and whatever, but I think that was pretty much like the spark that actually started my name to be recognized.
Yeah, they're getting noticed.
Yeah, exactly. And from that, it like snowballs constantly. It's a bit like exponential also in a sense, which is nice, as long as you keep working at it and everything, right? Basically, like I just continued to do that until somebody noticed me. And the first one to, I mean, not necessarily noticed me, but the first one that contacted me was actually
willing to take a chance with you.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Like, let's give this guy a shot. He's got some talent, and he's young, probably cheap.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's always like that at the beginning.
It's okay. I know what that's like.
So, Marco, would you say that your transition or your move into using ZBrush and learning ZBrush sort of came also because you had some or a lot of actual computer experience? Did that help? Did that kind of push you in because you were already well versed in computers and software and?
Well, you know what? I believe that you really don't need to be tech savvy to do 3D, to learn 3D, but it is a clear advantage, though. It is a clear advantage.
It seems tech savvy, though.
Well, it really is not, and that's actually I find it really interesting what you're saying, because like it's and that's another subject.
Because if anybody can do it, everybody would do it.
Yeah, I know. It's just that, like, for example, like the way that I do 3D,
the school of Martin is humble over here. Just let me just say, yes.
But yeah, so the actually the fact is that a lot of what I do, and especially with ZBrush, it's a lot of like manual stuff, right? I work with a pen, I work on my surface, I move the matter, I add matter, I rip, like whatever. It's like essentially it is sculpting. There's like, of course, you have the Control Z, you have like a couple of things which actually differs from like traditional sculpting, but like really essentially it is still like very artistic in that matter. And even like somebody that would do like 3D modeling with like Maya or Max, which is like more like the vertex pushing and whatever, still is like artistic in a sense. But where it helps to be tech savvy, it's because of all the computer interfaces of software. It gets alienating completely. I remember the first time that I opened like Max or ZBrush, and I was like, whoa,
it's intimidating.
There's like so much stuff. There's so much button and everything. And I guess that like being a little bit more tech savvy than like the average, probably that I was able to be like, okay, let's not panic. Let's take it one button at a time, or right. Yeah. But like, for example, like people ask me now, like, hey, what's the power of your computer? Like how much gigahertz? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm out of that stuff now. I did it for like 3 years when I was working at the government, but now I regressed back to like the artist that's like, oh, I just want to do art.
Give me a good one, and I'll go from there. That's what you need, right?
Yeah. You brought up an interesting point about ZBrush. We're going to ask this a little later on. We'll get back to what we were going to, but the difference between drawing on a piece of paper and the ZBrush technique, right? A lot of times an artist will get a blank piece of paper, he'll draw his character in whatever pose that he wants, and then all of a sudden they send you the concept and go ahead and do it on ZBrush. Yeah. And some people might think like, oh, well, what does he have to do? The job is done. But that's not really the case, is it? There's just so many more intricacies and layers to ZBrushing that you don't take that into consideration when you're just looking at the drawing on a piece of paper.
Yeah, exactly. What I mean is like when somebody does something on paper, or actually no, it's not about being on paper, but like when somebody gives you like a concept and they're like, hey, do it in 3D or whatever, they're basically showing you the intent. And the intent has a lot of how can I say, it's really important, the intent. But the thing is that it's not like a transferable like so easily, like, oh yeah, that's the intent in 2D. Well, then like just press the button and poof in 3D, and there you go. You don't have any question to ask yourself. You don't have anything, blah, blah, blah. That's not true, because there's a lot of first interpretation that goes in it.
Sure.
When you have like a drawing, like for example, if you were to look at like all the concepts for the models that I did, well, actually the ones that have concepts, because some of them I made the concepts myself, but that's another story.
Right.
But like for when actually somebody gives me like a concept, a drawing, you'll see there's like a lot of difference actually sometimes.
Well, you were mentioning earlier that, okay, fine, someone will give you the concept for the Shogun Batman, right?
Yeah.
And then you're actually, what did you say, 200 hours?
220 hours.
220 hours. It's, you know, my question is,
Wow.
what are you doing for 220 hours?
Oh, it looks like this.
For example, on the Shogun Batman, there isn't like a millimeter that doesn't have detail on it.
Yeah.
And when you're doing ZBrush, that's what you're doing. You're inputting every single detail.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
right?
I mean, it's like, for example, when somebody gives me like a concept, like for example, Shogun Batman, like the intent was actually there, but they basically told me like you can pretty much just like do it your own style, the treatment, let's say.
Martin Augusta, hi, we're talking about you, Mr. Art Director.
Yeah, it was really cool to work with Martin. It was he gave me a lot of freedom, and also like he just made sure that like a couple of things that were like really iconic or essential were there. So like he directed me like pretty well in that matter. And but it was fun because they were actually like, hey, you can do it in your own way if you feel that like it could be better. So like there's sometimes like some shapes that I reworked. Sometimes like I did something and they were like, oh well, you're actually like you didn't realize it, but you actually removed something iconic from Batman by doing that. So then like we reversed, and there was a lot of like back and forth like this. But so to connect with the question you asked earlier, something that's interesting is that, well, the way that personally I work, and I think a lot of people work, is that before I actually like do the final product, I actually do like a mock-up, which is probably going to take like 15% of the time is to do like that mock-up. And that mock-up, actually, if you see it from far, like let's say, for example, on a computer screen, if it's like the character from like head to toe does the entire screen, it should look finished. My mock-up should look finished at this distance. If you zoom on it, you'll realize it's like super soft and it's not precise,
it's a
right?
Draft,
it's a draft, exactly.
Is that because the resolution is just really low, or you're just working in a very low resolution?
I actually work
for those markups?
Yeah, I actually work in a very low resolution for two reasons. Number one is to make sure that I don't concentrate on small details. So I stop myself from being able to do small details. And the second reason is because it actually goes faster to get to a finished product or something that looks like a finished product. So the moment that we have the mock-up, then I can show it to the client, and then we can actually do like a couple of revisions around this.
Fine-tuning.
Yeah, exactly, fine-tuning and just making sure we know where we're heading. The moment that we have this, then what I do is I just do like a rough pose, and then we pretty much have the final result in front of us. So the moment that that's done, which represents maybe 20% of the time, when this is done and we're like, okay, we're good, we know the design's gonna work, we know this, that, and then the 80% of the time that's left is basically like artisanal stuff. Like I really like go over everything, clean everything. It is a long process, but I know that like 20% of the time that did earlier, the visual language is correct. We already know what we're doing. We know that like the pose has like good proportion, a good dynamism, and that sort of stuff. And by the end of the project, when I'm going to be near the end, we're pretty sure that there's going to be not much revision to do, or at least that's the goal, right?
Because very little anyway.
Yes, exactly. Because like everything is like was already.
So what's it like? You know, this leads to my next question. So you're working on a piece like the Shogun Batman, which, by the way, was like one of the showstoppers at New York City. You know, Chris and I will, because we saw it in person, we'll mention it a little later on. But you see, when you're working on a Shogun Batman, it's you and Martin, right? It's you and Martin. Whereas when you're working on a sideshow piece, sometimes when you're looking at the sideshow page, you're like 8 names.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Or 8 names. Like one guy did the arm, one guy did the head, one guy did the gun, and one guy did the base.
Yeah.
Like, what's it like working in that kind of dynamic?
It's a very interesting question, and something that I can say before is that even sometimes, like in sideshow, there's going to be characters that like I did pretty much alone, almost, and some of them that actually there was like more people like on it. I'm actually pretty lucky that like I pretty much do most of everything still, like with my stuff. I like to be like like I appreciate help from anybody else because I can actually learn from it also, and it's like it's very appreciated. But like it's always fun when you actually like can actually have your baby and like, oh yeah, it's mine or whatever. But
sure.
So like, but it's all that to say that like both happens, and even like within one company, like sometimes it happens that you are with like many people or just one or whatever. When you're by yourself, it's one thing. When you're by yourself with the art director, it goes very well. It's just like having a discussion with someone, right? Whereas like when there's many people, I have been lucky that like there was not much back and forth with that many people, because from what I heard from other artists, sometimes it can become really chaotic and like something that's...
So they trust you.
Well, I
compliment.
believe that, yes. And also, you know what, like just to be fair, like on the Punisher, there's like, I think like 2 parts that like were polished by Daniel Bell on him. Like one part of like the arm.
Before you, the art director for Punisher was David Igo?
It was Anthony. Will was on it. There was John also. Actually, you know what? Those are like names that were like in the emails when we were exchanging emails. So like sometimes it's hard to say like who had which responsibility and everything, but that's pretty much like what I know. So, but like it's always like you see, like it's always the discussion by email, and like they shoot ideas and like you bounce off from that, and then we discuss. And the process was actually really great, to be honest. Even like with that much people working on it, or like having something to say. It was a really enjoyable experience, actually.
Well, what's great about the Skull Punisher, Skull Face Punisher, and Chris, you could chime in here too. Like when we were at New York City Comic Con, there were 2 pieces that stood out for us: the Batman Shogun and the Skull Face Punisher. And you know, we didn't know who did it, right?
Yeah. Then Chris, we realized they were both done by the same guy. Like that was pretty coincidental. Sorry, before we move on, I want to just we have a guy on the live chat here, Guile Gambier, sending you some questions here, Marco. He wants to say hi. He really likes your Shogun Batman, and he's wondering about that what we were just talking about, like the iterative process. Like, so will you send something to XM? Did they ever tweak it, or do they just kind of say do this, do that, or do they tweak it a little bit and say this is more what we want?
Okay. Well, for example, let's say I talk about Batman Shogun and the Punisher, which are like the 2 most recent one that seems to be like the point of this interview. If I take them, for example, the Shogun Batman was a lot was done by myself. I had the concept, the drawing, which was the intent, which I used, and it was pretty great. And
definitely,
I think like every like 2 days, I was like sending like something to Martin just to make sure like things look good. And he was like always just like directing me like to like small changes and that sort of stuff. But the whole experience felt really great because we just seemed to agree like on everything, and a lot of what I was doing, they were like, that's good, we're good, just continue. And then like some things like needed more work. Like I remember like the base, actually there was a lot of work in that.
The Joker face.
Yeah, the Joker face, the way it was destroyed and everything, there was like some redoing there. But no, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool because it's super validating when you actually bring something and like they actually accept it from the beginning. And this experience was just like a breeze. Seriously, It was just a great experience.
Considering how complicated this piece looks, you would think it would be more complicated.
Yeah.
So where did you get your vision for the Batman Shogun? I mean, like, we're Quebecers, we don't see this sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, it's kind of like it's kind of like a weird coincidence, but like I came back. I was in Japan last year, and I was actually looking at like a lot of like samurai stuff. But I basically, like, when my opportunity to work for XM came, they told me like, oh, it's a Samurai Batman. I was like, that's kind of like that's cool. It's a cool coincidence that like I got interested by that stuff, and then this happens. But like I had a lot of help because it was not the first that they did that was in that kind of like atmosphere and like
See.
design, right? So I
see.
kind of like had an idea of like what they were like going for in terms of like the ratio of like technology versus traditional and that sort of stuff. So it was pretty easy to get an idea of what they want. And when I did my first draft, they were pretty much like, yeah, well, that's it.
That's
so
it.
I was like, all right, that's cool. I got this one well.
Okay.
Whereas, like, for example, sorry. Just to go
sorry. We have another question here that kind of related to that.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt, this is from Divine, another viewer, have you ever felt like, oh, they say, okay, that's enough, you're done, but you wanted to do more? Have you ever felt rushed to complete something? It's like, that's not quite where you want it?
No, actually, I feel that like I always had time to really go where I wanted to go with it. I believe it's like more the opposite. Sometimes like I do something and then the client is like, hey, you know what? I think we can like push it a little bit more in that direction, in that aspect. And sometimes like, I mean, sometimes for the better, sometimes it's stuff that I don't necessarily agree, but like you do it because they're the boss.
Well,
right.
they're the ones paying you, right?
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
have to do it.
Exactly.
So just to add to these ZBrush questions, we had a question by Steve on Facebook, and he asked about what advice do you have for artists today who want to get into digital 3D sculpting?
Well, I mean, everything that you need to know in terms of like everything you need to know intellectually or artistically about art, you need to know it. And because when you're going to go in 3D, you're going to learn 3D as like a medium. But the moment you know the medium, the rest is like how much a good artist you are that's actually going to help. And learning the medium is kind of like tedious, and it's sometimes it can be an handicap for some people because it's a dexterity thing and you have to practice it, but it's like practicing for a sport. Whereas like you need to have like this like physical like brain wired to your hands, but in reality there's a lot of like the like artistic spirit that you have to practice, and also like everything that's academic, like you have to know your anatomy. You really have to know your anatomy. And even people are like, oh, I want to do dragons and robots. Like, you have to know your anatomy. So you see, like, that's what I mean. It's still very, very like artistically based, right?
So like since we're on the background section here, where did you get your background in art? Like, was it just from you just illustrating and drawing? Is that where you got your sort of introduction to anatomy? Because what you're saying is that you need that before you begin digital sculpting. So where did you get that from?
Well, like everything that has to do with design, I'd say that it's something that I maybe like learned by myself when I was younger, and then learned more in depth when I really started to go in 3D. But like when I was drawing as a kid, even if it was like bad perspective, bad anatomy, bad proportions and stuff, I was practicing a lot my design sensibility. Like something that I loved when I was a kid, like in video games, was Mega Man. And Mega Man, it's like Pokemons, right? You have like 100 different bosses, and all the bosses, they all like, you got Fireman, Iceman, Table Man, Rocket Man, all of Airplane Man, Airport Man. And I actually started to do my own also, like we did Airport Man. That I remember, like, it was stupid, but whatever. Like I practiced like design like this, right? So I had like, it was more like self-taught. And then like I said, I when I was at school, I learned like a little bit more. I really followed like tutorials from people explaining how they think when they design, and it actually gave me a couple of like rules that like I kind of like understood maybe, but like now it was more like concrete. But to talk about like more something like anatomy and like the real artistic stuff, this is actually something. By the way, I can talk for like 6 hours.
It's all right. It's all right.
It's okay. It's okay.
when I wanted to go to school, the first thing that I did is I actually went to Ubisoft and to know if I could get hired first. And I fell on a super nice person that actually answered all my questions. And basically he was like, okay, so I see that you like drawing. It's clear, but there's a lot of things you have to learn. First of all, you have to learn anatomy. So buy these books, learn anatomy. Then you're going to have to learn 3D. Here's a couple of schools in Montreal, and take one, and you have to learn 3D. And after that, send your portfolio back to Ubisoft. And you know what's the funniest? This guy was one of my teacher at school later.
Oh.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
like when he saw me like in class, when he saw my name in the class, he was like, that guy actually followed my advice. It was really cool.
Sometimes
Stefan was his name.
what was his full name?
Yeah. Stefan Demel.
Yeah, great way to go, Stefan. These are things that you need when you're a budding artist and you want to make it.
Yeah.
You really need encouragement. You really need support, and someone who will take a chance, someone who will believe in you. And
that's why I like to
makes all
talk
the
about
difference.
this stuff, because I like to talk about this stuff. And to be honest, like I think 99% of the emails that I receive, like I answer them. Sometimes I don't, but like often it will be like questions like this. I had one like two days ago, like a kid, 15-year-old, and it was like, hey, so like, what do I do? Like, I like stuff and I like what you do. How can I do it? So basically I told him like a little resume of like how I did it and why I did it. And I was like, if you feels like it's similar, well, I mean, you can follow basically kind of like the same steps and whatever.
So leading back to a question that we kind of glossed over. All right, so you're learning your anatomy, you're starting to work, at the lower echelon of the industry. So how do you eventually get approached by XM, Prime One, Sideshow, and they're saying, we want you to work for us? Like, how did that happen? Because at that point you're experienced, right?
Yeah.
At that point they're not doing you a favor,
yeah.
Right? They're willing to take a shot with you because you seem proven. So
Okay, I actually remember. For a second I didn't, and it just clicked. So the first people that approached me for like anything collectible related was Prime One. And I remember that like when they contacted me, it was not too long after I did a personal piece, which was like a big mechanical bee. Well, he doesn't really look like a bee. I call him the wasp because like he's black and yellow, and there's like ints of like insectoid figure like elements.
We'll show that later. I have photos of that. We'll show that later.
Yeah, sure. So this is actually from this is kind of like one of my favorite piece of myself. Also, I really like it. I still like it, and like I hate myself for not continuing the series because I thought of like doing like the beetle, the mosquito, and I have like the rough version that exists on my computer. It's just like I have to like do it.
You need time.
But there's too much stuff.
Time, right?
I need like 10 times the time actually, I'd say. But so like this character, like which was like mechanical, was I did it because like people were telling me like, well, there's not much mechanical stuff on your portfolio, and I was like, well, let me show you. And then like I did this one, and there's what happens on social networks happened, and it's that you get noticed for what you want to do. And this is like this is a very important thing for like aspiring artists and stuff. Represent yourself for what you want to do, because at first I was doing a lot of professional work without really trying to illustrate who I was, and I was like receiving stuff that were clearly not my style. They were fun to do, they were nice, and I needed to pay the bill, but like I at some point I was like, why do I receive always like this kind of stuff? Like I want to do like grim things and robots and like disgusting, like that's what I wanted to do, and I was doing like
that's fun
cartoony stuff. Yeah, so I actually realized, well, I mean, nothing's going to happen if I don't represent myself correctly. So I did the wasp, and I was like, look, this is what I like. And I'm not 100% sure. This is my assumption, but I think this is the reason why Prime One contacted me, because the first character to do with them was actually a robot. And
is it the Evangelion stuff or the Eva stuff?
Actually, no. The first time he contacted me, I refused because it's something that I didn't like. It was a G1 Transformer, which I don't really like. I don't like blocky things. I like when shapes are organic and fluid and stuff. Like Evangelion is the kind of stuff that I like. Mm-hmm. But like the first time he contacted me, it was like, oh, I really love what you guys are doing. But it's just not the thing that I really like. And I was like, just contact me again if you have something else, because I do want to do it, but I want to put my passion in it. And the second thing that he gave me, I'm not sure if it was the Ultraman or the Anti-Venom, but like the moment he gave me that, I was like, sure, that's this one. Cool.
Had you heard of Prime One before they contacted you? Were you aware of that company?
Okay, so this question is okay, because it illustrates so many things in my life. No, I did not hear of them. the moment I received the email, I looked at what they did and I was like, wow, that's cool. And I was like, I want to do that. So this is why I sent them an email, but I did not know that. But
Well, that's pretty much how like collectors work too. It's like we didn't know about Sideshow, and then when we go on there, we're like, whoa, I want to collect those.
yeah, exactly. Well, just to give you an even worse example, the second video game company that I worked for in studio was BioWare Montreal, like Electronic Arts BioWare Montreal. So Mass Effect, in other words. And when so the who became my boss later sent me a message on Facebook and asked me, hey, do you want to work for BioWare Montreal on the next Mass Effect? And I was like, let me type Mass Effect on Google. And I looked at it and I was like, this is awesome.
You hadn't played Mass Effect before then?
I played Mass Effect 1 week before starting on
man.
BioWare.
You missed out. Yeah.
I know. Are we going to be deleting that?
Yeah, I know. But I mean, you know what? It's sad to say that like BioWare Montreal does not exist anymore. So, but
BioWare started in Edmonton. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of course, we were talking all the time to the Edmonton guys.
Yeah. Did you ever come? Did you ever make it out here? No.
No, I never did. But I met one of the guy from BioWare Edmonton in Poland last month, actually, which was kind of fun.
You were in Poland?
Yeah, for a 3D conference, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I went there to talk about like my 3D techniques and my craft and stuff.
That's pushing your company?
Yeah, also, yeah, of course. It's always like a window to talk about my company is always a good opportunity. So, I mean, I did that, but I also did it because like a lot of my friends were going. It was a new place, and it gives me like a reason to travel. So it was kind of nice. So yeah, I like to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, but like just that to say that like I live like in a cave, and the only thing that I listen to is like Netflix on loop. So sometimes things happen to me around me, and I don't know, and then like it comes to me, and they're like, "Hey, did you know that existed?" And I'm like, "No, I did not know." It's like, "Yeah, it's been 10 years, and you're working on it, by the way, if you did not know." So like, it's crazy, seriously. Like you'll see, I'm like, I had this.
You're invested in your work.
I'm the what? Sorry.
Invested in your work.
Well, I'm really invested in like doing my work, and like my bubble is like very small. So like, you're gonna see like, when I was at school, actually. In the yearbook, there were like the most this, the most that, the most likely to, and me was like the most lost, basically, because like I was like never listening in class, and I was like just always like in my bubble, and things was happening around me, but like I did not know. So yeah.
Well, the positive is that they did eventually find your work. So
they did.
Prime One. And, there's one thing you told me earlier that I did not know. We spoke about this earlier, Chris, that he worked on the Wolverine, right?
Okay.
But the work that he did on the Wolverine was the base.
Yeah, actually.
Right? So tell us the story about this whole base that you told me. I thought it was a very cool story.
Yeah, exactly. So like this, the character was done mostly by Raphael Grassetti. And at the time, I did not even know. But like when you look at like the post of Wolverine,
there you go, the base.
Yeah, you see like the base that you see a little bit right now. That the hand is actually the hand of Sentinel. And if you look at the same at the Magneto from the same collection, it has the head of Sentinel. Yeah, exactly. And basically what happened is that like I basically did the entire Sentinel, or designed the entire Sentinel, and they were like, okay, so like the reason why we need this is because we're actually going to use the head and the hand for like 2 pieces. And those were my first, the first thing that I did for Sideshow that came out was those 2 things. And
wow.
Yeah.
So it makes sense because that's what you like to do, like the actual robotics, and that's where your interest really lays. So that makes sense. I understand. Okay.
I was actually going to guess that. I was going to say, if I had to guess which part you did, it was going to be the base based on your mechanical background there.
Well, you know what? Actually, I'm really working on it right now. But like, honestly, I love to do organic and mechanical stuff. I love both of them. But the problem is that for a period, people only asked me to do robotic because like I guess that I was quick enough and good enough to do it.
Like you're typecast.
I was typecast to do this, and I ended up like getting like, I guess, better at it. But like, to be honest, I love to do organic stuff. Everything that I'm working on right now in the present is all organic stuff. Because like at some point I was like, I'm just tired of robots.
Well, you're
just
probably
so-
saying, I work-
like,
So
I work
here's,
so
But you're
hard
so
on
good
getting
at
to
it.
know anatomy.
yeah, well, thanks.
We're so hard to get to know anatomy, and here I am doing robots.
Yeah, exactly.
I just threw up on screen kind of a good mix here. We got Cyborg,
Well,
Superman. So that one's kind
exactly.
of a good mix of both for you, right?
This is an exactly good mix, actually. This is
That's
something that
Prime one, right?
Yeah, this is Prime One. This is when he gave me like this piece to do. It was like, oh, perfect. I actually wanted to have something that's like a bit organic and a bit mechanic, just to mix both of them. So it just felt like a good, it felt like a good idea.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we got a couple
That
more of your
cover
Prime
is
1
really
projects
nice.
here.
Thanks.
We
Yeah,
got the Tusk Predator. What's
Yeah.
he called? Is that what he's called?
Cracked Tusk Predator.
Tusk, and we got the Anti-Venom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get it right.
Yeah.
I don't even know like where it's from. I think it's like a comic version of like the
Cracked
Predator.
Tusk. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. It was pretty cool to work on though. And Anti-Venom is like still one of my favorite pieces actually. Like there's some stuff I would fix on him now because I evolved, but
This reminds me of the Anti-Venom.
yeah.
That's a Prime 1 piece.
Yeah.
Now, this has nothing to do with you. I'm just going to say something in passing. You know, when we were trying to find some stuff
Yeah.
that you had done for Prime 1, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
They don't credit their artists the
Yeah.
same way other companies do. So if you're going on a sideshow website, I mean, they might even put on the list the housekeeper, you know. I mean, they'll credit everybody, and that's amazing. And XM, the same thing. And you know, Prime 1, if you're listening, guys, you know, list the sculptors who worked on these designs.
Yeah, it really makes me feel proud when like my name is mentioned and everything, because it really
Sure.
feels like you're like part of the team and all that sort of stuff. So when it happens, like I'm just super happy. When it doesn't, whatever. I mean, I'm still happy to have done like the art and I can still show it, so that's cool, right? But it's really fun to see who's been working on it with you, because like because of like companies like Sideshow and XM that actually say the names of people, like I've been able to meet like the painter of my piece, and now I talk to him like on Facebook and we're friends and we just like
Right.
chat, and it just creates like this like sense of community and everything, and it's really
Absolutely.
fun.
Or is
and,
that
you know,
Ed?
Yeah, it's Ed, exactly.
Ed Bradley? Yeah, I talked to him too. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he is. He's the
Excellent
one that-
painter too, yeah.
He's the one that did the Punisher.
Hey, is that the guy who you were hanging out with at New York Comic-Con?
No, he wasn't there. He had asked me to go and look for something for him that he had worked on, and that's how I missed out on a bunch of stuff because I was off doing that. But yeah, he painted my Green Goblin for me, and I know he's painted a lot of stuff for Sideshow now and a lot of companies. So maybe a guy we can get on the show eventually. But really cool guy. So I got another
Guyver
couple.
here. Just one sec,
Yeah.
Chris. Guyver.
Guyver, yeah.
A lot of people have been asking about that piece. Like I'm hearing some scuttlebutt
Yeah.
about it. That people are looking forward to that one.
Well, that's great. I mean, I actually really like to work on this one also. I didn't know Guyver before like Prime 1 asked me if I wanted to do it, but like I looked over and I saw what it was. They gave me like an idea of like the pose and everything, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty interesting. And at some point they did Evangelion, and like I told them like Evangelion is one of my favorite things from when I was a kid. It's like I read everything, I saw everything from Evangelion. So when they asked me like if you want to do it, I was like, of course. Like I mean, there's a difference when you ask someone to work on something they're passionate about, or something that they think is cool, or something that they think is not cool. So like starting from like something that is not cool, it's like, let's pay the bills, but like not really connected. It's not really a good match. But like since I'm professional, I always put my 100% in it. And then when something is cool, you're like a little bit more motivated. But when it's something that you're passionate about, it is like the best mix. And I find that I've been talking to artists on the internet that are in my position also, and sometimes they tell me like how passionate they were about a project, and like I can clearly see like the one that they were passionate in, the one they were not. Sure. And it's like maybe you won't see the difference because like me, I know them a little bit more, so I can see like sometimes where they put like the 5% more, like when they went to 110% instead of 100%.
Sure.
And like I'm like, oh yeah, clearly this one is like.
Is there a character that you're really passionate about that you just haven't gotten an opportunity yet to sculpt and to work on?
Actually, you know what? I was thinking about that because okay, so there's two answers. The first answer is I pretty much did everything I wanted to do, and the rest is my own personal projects that I want to do, right? But like in terms of like naming things, I actually was like thinking about that. I'm actually checking on my phone because I wrote it down just to make sure that I don't forget. And yes, so I was thinking there's two characters that I actually really like to do, really love.
I'm gonna cheat to look at this list.
It's like those four here's
Okay.
Venom and Carnage, which are pretty much my favorite characters of the entire Marvel universe.
Why are they your favorite? Why are they your favorite?
Well, first of all, when I was a kid, I was listening to like Spider-Man, the cartoons of Spider-Man every time when I was coming back from school. So like I grew to really love the Spider-Man universe. And
good man.
This is the 90s cartoon.
Chris approves.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. There was like Venom. There was also like Spider-Man when he becomes like a man spider and like all that stuff.
I remember that well. Yeah, I know that series.
Yeah. So like these were the one I was listening the most, and I always loved the look of Venom, how like insane that he looked, but like even like Carnage was like getting it like even higher. And I always liked to have like Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage one next to the other because they feel really like the same with like a slight variation that actually gives them like a lot of spirit. And I grew really fond of those guys.
Production companies, if you're hearing, you have a very motivated, determined artist to do a
Venom and Carnage,
amazing Venom.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know,
all you can.
You know what, you say that, but like, you know, like the Venom and the Carnage from the the Sideshow Comiquette series. They are so well done. I actually own the Venom because I love it so much. And to be honest, if somebody asks me to do Venom, I would be so stressed or so anxious because these are so well done. But I'm like, wow. I mean, I can't do something that's like not par or subpar, right?
You never do to copy someone else, right?
No, you don't want to copy, but it's just stressful.
You trust your vision. Your vision will come up with something.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, yeah, I know I would have fun to do it. So, like, if you have fun doing it, of course, like, it's the end result. It's going to be nice for sure.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, I was thinking of those, and like also the other things that I really like, and it's like, for example, you remember like the Nazguls from Lord of, no, not the Nazguls, the Jesus Christ, the Witch Kings from Lord of the Rings. Like these guys, I always found that they looked so cool. But the fact is, like, I not necessarily like the Lord of the Rings universe. Like, I mean, I like it. I like it. It's nice. Yeah, I just like those guys, especially when I saw the movies, I was like, they are so cool. And if like somebody would ask me to do something like that, I would probably be like, yeah, that's nice. I love like those mythological things. Like sometimes I see characters, I don't even know where they're from. Just like I saw like this like sculptures recently. I don't even remember what's the company, what's the artist, but it's just like a Valkyrie-esque like woman, and she has like a sword and she's pointing her sword like forward, and she has like wings and whatever. And I just saw like the pose and everything. It was like, this is so cool. And sometimes like this is the kind of stuff I want to do more than because it's the franchise that I like or that sort of stuff. You see,
this actually leads to another question. We talked about this briefly, but we'll bring it up. Most of your characters, I'm sure you guys have noticed up until now, they're all men, right? Mm-hmm. They're either male robots, or they're male villains, or they're male monsters, or they're male everything. So what's up with that? Let's just go straight out and say it like that.
Yeah, actually, it's really easy. It's way easier to sculpt men rather than women. I find that there's like many reasons. There are some personal reasons, but I find that there's also like some like social reasons to that. First of all, people are way more critical to when you actually like sculpt women. I think it has to do with like a little bit of like our current zeitgeist and like some feminist-esque aspects. But the fact of the matter is, like, I think people are more critical. So it's like sometimes it will require me to spend a little bit more time on the piece, and sometimes I like to not take too much time, and that's why sometimes I actually use. If I don't really think about it, if it's not like a conscious decision, I will often more than ever go more on the male side side. And one of the reasons also is because you can actually be a little bit more like gritty and not really, you don't need as much finesse. And sometimes it's more fun also to work that way, at least for me. So I think like by default,
you take out the sexy angle, and then you have a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
When you're drawing women, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
With the sexy.
I mean, it's like I really like when people, they don't actually like necessarily feel that they're required to do this, but like I find that I'm really critical of my own work when I do like female, and it needs to be like a certain way, and I feel that I trap myself in a box where like it has to look this way, but I think it's more like something that like I learned socially. It's yeah.
No, we get it, but the same thing could be said about artists who excel at doing women.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask them to all of a sudden do monsters or do men,
they look cute.
Get lost.
Yeah,
exactly what you said. Like for example, Adam Hughes is an amazing artist, known very well for doing cheesecake.
Yeah,
you know? And when you ask him to do men, they look too pretty.
Yeah.
Right? They look too polished. They look too clean. And, you know, Batman shouldn't look like something you can cuddle with. You know?
Exactly.
Not that I'm looking to cuddle with Batman.
Yeah.
You know, but,
except in the cuddle multiverse.
Sorry, Gina has a question.
Yeah. So like speaking of these projects, Ben on Facebook had a question.
Yeah.
He was wondering what, as we're going through your projects, what in your mind was your most challenging statue to sort of design and put together? I mean, I know you have a huge portfolio, so that might be a really sort of tough question to sort of narrow it down, but that's what he was wondering.
The most challenging,
conceptually, or like, you know, working for a company?
Yeah.
Let's go with
either one.
Yeah, let's go with design.
I remember a character that I had to do for Prime 1 that I had a lot of difficulty understanding how he was actually done, because the artist that does Guyver, I find he draws really well, but there's like this one character that like there was like something, it's very precise, but there was something around his hips that was like so impossible to understand. And like even if I had like drawings from like different angles and everything, I was always like, they don't sync, it doesn't work, it does. And I had to actually like, I did it like my way. Then like Prime 1 was like, that's not really how we were like seeing it.
Right.
And he ended up like 3D scanning a toy and sending it to me in 3D so I can see like the toy like in 3D, but it's kind of like if I had the toy in my hand, it just looked like, oh, okay, that's kind of like how they actually like saw it, and how Prime 1 was like also seeing it like in their eyes. So, and I had like so much difficulty like interpreting the drawings, and also at the same time pleasing how Prime 1 was seeing it.
Hold on, just a quick, because you're bringing up a very interesting point. I know when artists are asked to do a character, a lot of times, like Marvel or DC, for example, they'll send them like, you know, books, and like, so you could see the character from every single angle and design.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're working for the statue companies, they just say, go Google.
Actually, yeah. Well, I mean, it's really different from one company to the other. But like, if I think really fast, like Batman Shogun, it was like a concept drawing. So
well, that's different.
It was a concept, right?
We've never seen that, like, you know, on
yes.
the armor.
Yeah, it does not exist. So the only instance of like this character exists in that one picture. So there we go. You have one picture. But I remember they sent me like a reference board. I think they did. They sent me like a couple of pictures of like real samurai stuff to be like, it's kind of like the idea we want also. So it kind of helps. Sideshow, like for the Punisher, they sent me like an actor, and they were like, don't make this actor, but that's the feel that we're going for.
So it like, I'm looking for a sandal that's a boot.
Actually, you know what? It's kind of like it sounds weird, because like if you look at like the actor that I took and you look at the face, that's the end result, it's like it doesn't really look like him anymore, but like there's like an essence to it that's still there. Like if they would have sent me like Christian Bale like actor, the feel would have been like really different at the end, even if anyway they don't look like.
Which actor was it? Can we ask?
It was the singer of I don't remember his name. It's the singer of a band. Jesus Christ, Rourke.
Not Mickey Rourke. That's an actor.
No, not Mickey Rourke. Exactly. It's not him. It's the singer from. I hate myself. I am super bad with names.
You can let us know. We can put it up later. But good segue into the Punisher skull face.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
You were introduced. That was a concept you were showing, right? Like you weren't part of the original design of that.
No, exactly. Like I was like gonna say, just like to finish, Prime One, for example, like the Superman that I did, he basically sent me like a frame from the comic book of Cyborg Superman, and it was like, do that. That's basically the pose we want. That's the essence that we want, and do your own design. So I was like, fine,
Wow.
I'm super happy to do that. Like I love to work on like something on my own, as well as like, actually, I think I prefer working on something on my own. But I'm gonna have a lot of joy that people send me nice concepts also, and
I know. I'm just speaking for myself. I know when I work on projects, the more information, the better.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I don't feel like I'm flooded with too much.
Yes, exactly. But it really feels like it's working two different parts of my brain when I do the concept myself, or when I'm interpreting the concept of somebody else.
Sure.
And to be honest, at this point, even if I prefer doing my own concept, there's like sometimes I like to in quotes take a break and just like do like a piece that already exists, that already inspires me, right? Mm-hmm. I'd say, yeah, to be honest, sometimes working on my own stuff, I find it's not as inspiring because there's a lot of like doubting. There's a lot of like the process sometimes can be hard, and you critique yourself a lot when you work on your own designs. Whereas if you work on like something that already exists, it's more like, well, it's there. There's no question for me to ask myself. It's right there, and I only have to interpret it. So yeah.
So just a quick question about that past statue we were looking at, the XM Shogun. When or with these larger statues, and even the Anti-Venom by Prime One, and this XM Shogun here, Batman Shogun, when you're designing it, is there any, or do you have any sort of considerations in terms of the steadiness and the whole support structure, or do you leave that to others to handle?
Actually, since I do always like a rough copy at first, we pretty much handle all those questions in the rough. In the rough. So this is the reason why I actually spend a little bit of time having an idea of the final composition. This way, like they can actually like talk to their engineers right now and ask them like, is that going to work? Are we going to need like a metal bar? Is it possible? Is it going to break? So, because I've worked on stuff on my own with like some other people, and when we had the finished result, it was like, ooh, it feels like it's gonna break in any second. And I feel that like they probably have like a team behind them that's like a little bit knowledgeable. So we handle this like in the rough copy.
Okay, so you're also involved with the engineering, and that sort of plays into your design.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for example, the Shogun Batman, the first iteration that I did with the horse, when we posed the horse, we were like, I think like the 3 legs he's standing on are going to break. And we actually, I thickened all the legs of the horse. And then at the end, when we did the base, I actually put like a rock that's like touching the 4th leg that was like at the back.
Can you post a picture of the Shogun so we can see what he's talking about?
Well, I don't have a finished product of it.
That's fine.
Yeah, so you see like the 3rd leg, if you read from the left to right, this leg actually is touching like the rock, because like even at the end we were like, there's going to be so much weight that like even the thickened leg are probably not going to be enough, so we need to just like have like another like support.
It looked pretty solid. It looked like you can use it as a battering ram. It looked pretty amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's cool. Sorry.
So I was going to ask, how much input do you have into how the statue breaks down? Because when we get it as collectors, it's in 50 different pieces, right? So do you design all the little keys and how it's going to break apart, or is that something done? Do they tell you how to do that, or do you?
Yeah,
decide?
That's interesting. I did it once only. It was on the Punisher, the Sideshow Punisher. I actually did we call it engineering in the industry. It's like doing the cuts, doing the keys, and making it print ready. The Punisher, I did it all by myself, the keys and everything. But like when they asked me to do it, I was like, dude, I can do it, but I never did it professionally. I only did it for myself, for my prints at home, because I have a small 3D printer, we can talk about that later. But
Yeah, we'll
I
get
print
into
my
that.
own stuff, and I actually key my own stuff also. So I kind of like learned on myself by myself, but like I learned like the four important things to do when you print, but I did not know if there was like other golden rules and whatever. So basically, like I sent them like an idea of what I wanted to do. They guided me. I did it, and at the end they were like, "Yep, works." So I was pretty happy.
So it sounds like that was a pleasant experience as well, working with Sideshow.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. Seriously, like they're really cool, and they were really patient and everything. And like the production on the Punisher was like a little bit hard. Also, like there's some stuff that happened, some changes in the company, but like they were really trying to make sure that I feel like validated and that sort of stuff. And
That's
it was
important.
it was great. Like they're awesome people, and even like with the challenges that like we had, they were like really trying to make sure that like I feel okay and whatever. It was really great.
Supported.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but back to the Punisher piece.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece, I have to say. Like, you know,
I love it.
I am feeling privileged sitting next to a guy. I'm going to buy this statue.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
So you'll have to sign my base.
yeah, I will
You're
absolutely
using
do
my
it.
connections, Chris.
Yeah. So I
Um,
gotta ask, and you might not be able to tell us what exactly, but is there going to be some swap out parts? That Sideshow is usually known for that.
Well, I worked on some swappable parts, but the thing is that sometimes the decision they change at the end because of X reason or whatever.
License.
But yeah, license, I guess.
License for a
But
game or
to be honest, like I actually really don't know. But my gut feeling is that they're probably going to be at least one for sure.
Okay.
And I would be really happy that they do, because it's a nice one. It's like
It's a stunner. I mean, like I said, this one and the Shogun Batman were the one a lot of people were going, "Wow, this is amazing." I mean, the X-Men Batman Sanity was another one, but we're not talking about that one today.
Yeah, this one I'm so happy of the paint job. Ed did like an awesome job on it, and I think other people also like worked on the paintings, like some parts that were like very sensible or whatever.
Well, yeah.
But like overall, yeah.
Ed was telling me I think the face, like the skull on the face, was done in house because they wanted to stencil it perfectly for the factories, and then I think he worked on the rest of it.
Okay, Chris, I just remembered I learned that from you actually. What I just said.
Okay.
So I'm just recycling information right now.
Okay.
It's exactly something you said that I actually remembered, and then I just said that. But yeah. But anyways, I mean, I'm just really happy of like the paint and everything. It really looks nice. Since I did the engineering also, everything seems to fit well together. So that I'm also really happy. I don't know if they changed something behind. Like the moment that I send my model to the company and they give me my invoice, basically, like I don't know if like stuff happened. So what I do is like I look at the final result, and like sometimes I just like look around to see if things change. For the moment, I've never seen something change, so I'm pretty happy about that. It means that I did my job well, I guess. But yeah, no, that's
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Because just one last question about the skull-faced Punisher. How was it presented to you? Did you get an email saying, "Here's a concept of the Punisher, do a 3D sculpture of it"? Is that basically?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been working with Sideshow for I think like 2 years now, and I did a lot of things that were canceled.
Stuff we've never seen.
Yeah, you never seen and might never see. It was like a lot of design work on some characters, but like they have so many projects, and like sometimes like they get like pushed back. And
the Flash, tell me they're doing a Flash. I mean,
I don't know. But there's a couple of things that I worked on, and we're always getting canceled. And somebody that I work with, the person that I work with the most at Sideshow is David Igo. Super fucking awesome dude.
Say hello to.
Hey, that's okay. That's okay. We're all adults here.
Sorry. Say hello to David Igo.
Yeah.
Watching.
Hey, Dave. Yeah, he's super cool. I always talk to him, and he's really, really, really great guy. Actually, I was working with him on like some stuff like redesigns of characters and everything, and it actually was always getting canceled. And at some point, Dave was like, "I feel super bad for you. Like your stuff always gets canceled, or like they're used for like the base of something, like the Magneto and Wolverine thing." And they were like, you know what?
Maybe for other bases too. Is there like other pieces of that Sentinel?
No, not for the moment. Okay. Yeah.
Well, X-23 was on a Sentinel something or other, wasn't she? Another hand or something? That wasn't part of it?
That was not mine actually. It was something else. I don't really know actually. But so he was like, hey, you know what? John has something for you, and they gave me like the Punisher, and they were like, please have fun, because it's been like three, four things that we give to you that never see the light of day, or like not most of them. So and I was really happy because it was at the time where I was getting really tired of doing robots. So when he gave me the Punisher, I was like, nice. There's like almost no mechanical thing on this character. So awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really nice.
I have one last question about your projects.
Yes.
Like I guess like all artists, they always have their have their portfolio laid out, and they typically have their best project on top to sort of showcase who they are. So I guess my question is, what would be at the top of your portfolio right now? And this sort of ties into Santino's question from Facebook. He was asking, what do you find is your most successful statue? So question is, what would you put right now at the top of your portfolio?
Oh my God, what I would put at the top of our portfolio? What I mean, like, I'm not. Are you looking for like the one or like top
project?
5?
Yeah,
the one. Yeah, you can only pick one.
Why don't we give them a top 3 just to make life easier?
No, that's gonna be hard. I'm not gonna be able to answer a top 3.
Pick one. Pick one.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Shogun Batman, of course, was such a nice piece to work on, and it has like so much variety, and like, since I actually worked on the design a little bit also, like it made me really, really, really happy. So I think, to be honest, like all the answer that I would give would be character that I was also involved with the design.
Yeah.
Like the Cyborg Superman I did, I'm like super happy about it. There's some stuff that like are not out yet, that like they're gonna come soon, and like I'm extremely happy about also. Some that I'm working on right now that I'm really happy, but
some Marvel DC stuff.
Some Marvel DC stuff, yeah, exactly. That's coming. Some more stuff. They're going to be cool. Also, I'm really happy. I'm really passionate about them. But these I really like Cyborg, Superman, the Batman I really like. There's going to be a lot of my personal portfolio pieces also that I'm going to put there, because one of the best way for me to breathe as an artist is to do stuff on my own.
Yeah,
sometimes like it's not my best stuff, because like it's nice to work with a team that pushes you, whereas when I do personal stuff, it's pretty much like something that I'm going to like just like, I don't know, dump, like there you go, like this is like basically like what I do. And sometimes I study a little bit before doing something just to level up, but most of the time when I do something personal, it's just for fun. But I like to showcase this, because I like to showcase anything that shows that I worked on the design piece also. So my own personal projects.
What you're saying personal. Is if you're part of the beginning, middle, and end, that's the ideal.
Yes, exactly. And it came later in my career. At first, like I was not recognized for like the designs and stuff, but I always pushed it. I've always did my own design, and without nothing happening, I just did it because I liked doing it. And at some point, Sideshow started to do it. Prime One then started to do it. They're not related. I think it's just a coincidence. And then XM, like I said, I didn't work on the concept, but they gave me a lot of liberty in it, and I think that they enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it, and it just feels that like stuff is panning right now in a way that like people are considering my design a little bit more, and it makes me really happy. It really feels like I'm getting into like I told you earlier, I'm getting into like the golden era of my career.
Right? Like the year of proving yourself is behind you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I think you always have a little bit to do it, just to actually always be a little bit fresh.
Your name now means something.
Yeah,
and that's you worked very hard to get that. So when people see, Mr. Marco Plouffe, they can actually visualize stuff that you've done. Or the art designers, the art directors anyway. So
yeah, it's really nice.
That's
really
a nice pat on the back moment.
Yeah, it's a long journey. It's a lot of effort, but I really feel like lately I had my carrot, my cookie. What's the expression?
Your cake. Your cake and eat it too.
Ate it too.
Yeah.
Cool
so
stuff.
Quickly before we move on to your own company, we had a question here from Guile. He wants to know, with the Punisher, if there's plans to make it kind of a companion piece to something else. Do you have any idea of where they're going with it? Is it a standalone, or Are they going to make a Kingpin or something to go along with it?
Oh, I don't actually. I don't really know.
Okay.
It's. I think that probably they make it on purpose to not like say too much, right? So it actually really stays confidential if you want to really have the surprise.
Yeah, they probably
So
wouldn't want you telling us which character it is, but yeah, I just wonder if you happen to
But we
know,
can
is there more
ask.
coming?
He'll just say
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. I'm
You-
still
you
going to
know
ask
what?
a question. Yeah.
Yeah, it really I don't know, and I would say I think not, but I don't
Okay.
know. Actually,
look-
you know
it-
what? I say
you-
that, but I don't know. I really don't
You know what?
know.
The piece makes it look like he's already finished off whoever was in that room with him,
Okay.
anyways. So
Well,
Uh,
you know what? I'll say something, but it's like speculations and stuff. I
Okay.
remember it was really important for them that he's looking on his left.
okay, interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I don't know. Actually, to be honest, I'm not even teasing with you. I'm just like it's really just a speculation.
You know
on his
So,
left.
okay.
What's
Maybe he's
interesting-
looking. Maybe he's looking to his left towards Kingpin.
Yeah, well,
I would love to see a
Well,
Kingpin.
see-
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, what's interesting about this piece, right, is it's almost like you've gone full circle. You went from totally mechanized
Yeah.
to a guy who's not mechanized at all, no superpowers, just
Yeah.
his muscles and his grit and his baseball bat.
Yeah, exactly. Also, like he's like less equipped than like the other Punishers that I see
Right,
most of the
right.
time. Like
Yes.
all the other
Baseball
Punishers
bat. I
are-
mean, he's getting personal. This guy is taking things personal. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, most of the time you see him like as a mercenary, and like also like if you look at the Netflix series, he's like army guy.
Well, he's a
all
man
that
on a
stuff.
mission, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that one of the things I love about statues is the ones that tell you a story.
Yeah, well, I mean, in this one he
Right.
looks more broken and everything. I find it's for some reason like he looks more like nothing else to lose. Like it's his final fight. Also,
He looks
I
almost
can see
dead
that.
inside,
Yeah.
doesn't he? Like there's nothing left for him to
Yeah.
kill, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like he went through hell and won. Like he just battled through hell, and he's victorious here.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like there was nothing left with him to fight with. The bat was all that
Yes,
was left.
this is exactly what I was gonna say. Like the way that I feel is like if like maybe like his artillery was burnt and basically like he came there with a bat and the rest of the weapons were from like the guys on the floor,
Sure.
like the first guys that he took.
This
So-
is like John Wick 2. Have you seen John Wick 2?
Yeah, I love John Wick.
Where
It's
he's
so
got like
fun.
what 7 bullets at the end, and he's got to take out 300 guys or something with that. Yeah, that's like that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so let's move on. We're going to talk about your company, Chaos Masons.
Yes.
Think I got that right. So I'm just going to throw up some images of stuff that you've done, and some digital artwork. This is more in that horror theme that you said you like to do.
This is a fan art of a video game that exists. That's a really cute design, but I did it like more grim in my tastes. But this is more
Okay.
like a personal project, right? Like
Right.
now the rocker bust that you can see here is actually something that I printed and I sell myself because like it's nice to work on other people's franchise, but I also
Sure.
love to work on my own stuff and
The
to sell it.
originals.
Like
It's right here,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, so this
let's
one
see
will
if we can
let's
get
see
to
the
a
live
look at
version
this.
of it.
like this is this little guy right here.
It's clearer after.
Yeah. So that's this one here, and that's available on your website.
Yeah, exactly. We have like 4 of them. I have the wasp, I have the rocker, I have like a pen holder.
Are those
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Are they pre-painted or?
No, I mean, there's a primer on it, so like people can paint it if they want. It's already ready to paint, but like everything is done like in gray, just to make it more like affordable. And also since I'm more like a sculptor than like a all-around sculptor, painter, etc. It's like the part that interests me the most. So this is like the reason why I'm selling it in gray.
Shipping
Yeah.
internationally.
I actually had a guy, Terry Pizzle, that actually painted like my rocker bust and sent it to me for fun. It's
Nice.
it's hard to see on the camera, but like there's pictures on the internet, you can see it. But like the paint job is actually really well done.
The mask comes off.
Yeah, also like
the
the mask comes out if you like pull on it, so you can
Okay.
actually have him like without the mask. Just for
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, if you look, I made like a prototype design of like this character at first, and like it was really important to see like the skull under it. So
what's the name of this? Sorry, again?
Just rocker bust.
Rocker bust.
Yeah, it's hard to see now, but like if you look at like the full picture that I did of this character, it's actually a musician from Iron Maiden in the years 3000s.
Oh, Eddie.
So, well, it's not Eddie, but I love Eddie, but I was more envisioning like one of the guys like Gears that's actually like it's kind of like a tomb that he's in this robot. It's like sarcophagus. But he like his essence is still trapped in the metal frame, and he's still rocking after 1,000 years. Yeah, exactly. There you go. But I mean, it's like Iron Maiden, they have those fantasies like of like future stuff or whatever. So like it was basically like the idea, right? It's just I wanted to do my own design, more futuristic than like the stuff that Iron Maiden do normally. But
hold on, I'm gonna write this.
So Marco,
bring this up later, okay?
Okay. Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to write a note that he brings up later on. So go ahead.
Sure.
So Marco, can you just give us a bit of insight in how you came up with the name Chaos Masons?
Oh yeah, actually, my the co-founder of the company is Cédric Seo. Cédric Seo is actually pretty much
Comment ça va, Cédric?
Hello, Cédric. He's probably not listening.
Oh.
But
what do you mean? Of course he's watching. Everyone's watching.
He's He's super busy. Like managing my company, it takes like so many hours of my day, and like we're actually growing bigger and bigger. We'll go back to this, but like all that to say that like he's extremely busy. I'll probably tell him like just to watch when we're gonna do it. We're gonna put it on YouTube. But Cédric Seo was actually like kind of like my mentor at some point when I started in my first company, and then became like my friend, and then he became my colleague, and then he became the co-founder of our company.
Wow.
And when we created the company, one of the important thing was to actually be recognized not only for the stuff that we do, like video games characters, like a company asks us to do characters, we do it, and then we send them. But it's a little bit impersonal, and something that was really important is to actually have our own like style, our own vision. This is why we concentrate a lot on like doing design stuff, also because it's where we get to shine in this aspect of like creativity and image and etc. But all that to say that something that's really important for us is like versatility, and also like kind of like trying to do something that like did not exist before. Sure. It's kind of like it's a weird thing to say because everything exists, and everything that's new is just a new combination of things that already exist. But
that's okay.
That's like philosophical, right? And I'm fine with that. But like the idea is really based on like trying to do something that's like new, changing, and etc. And for us, like chaos, but chaos spelled correctly, like CHAOS, was actually something that was really important for us. It was a great word, and we basically just like saw ourselves as like makers of chaos.
Builders of chaos.
Builders of chaos. So we just like, that's where it comes from. And we just changed chaos. We spelled it like with the KEOS, just so it sounds more like, less like angry and mean. Like, because like chaos like this is often used as like the bad guys and stuff. And we're not the bad guys. We're
the good guys, of course.
So technically you're a chaos agent.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Anybody as old as me, they'll know what I meant by chaos agents.
So I just threw up a couple more pictures here. We've got
TV show called Get Smart. They had chaos agents. Never mind.
Sorry, Chris, go on.
It's okay. You got this guy. This is a character from a video game, you said, the one with the sword here.
Yeah, Hollow Knight. It's a video game that's actually an indie game from Team Cherry, and it's like a cute little character. It's still like Nightmare Before Christmas-ish, and like in the feeling, it's like whimsical and dark, but it's a really cartoony. And it was like, hey, I'm gonna do it in my own like grim style.
So this is a total reimagining of that character there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's It's printed by my own printer. Also, this is really like something that I have at home. I didn't bring it here because it's like 18 pieces, and they seem like they're all gonna break because it's like super thin. But this is actually something I assembled by myself. It was really fun.
So someone had asked what kind of printer you use.
It's the Form 2 from Form Labs. So Form Labs, they have like the Form 1, Form 1 Plus, Form 1, Form 2. and I bought the second one. One of my friend Thomas Roussel, he actually showed me how to use it. It's pretty hardcore. It's pretty complicated. The stuff is extremely chemical.
You don't just press print.
You. I
So,
mean,
yeah, this picture on the left, it looks like something that's sort of almost fresh out of the printer.
This is absolutely fresh out of the printer. Behind it, you see there's like a liquid. This is a isopropyl alcohol. It's like rubber alcohol basically. And when it comes out of the printer, I have to use like gloves and stuff, and I have to put it in this bath in order to like neutralize it or make it like not
Toxic.
not toxic anymore. Yeah, exactly. And basically, this is a picture of it drying up right now. After it's dried up, I have to actually give it like a UV bath. So I actually bought like, you know, like the nail polishing things that they have in nail salons. I actually bought one of those, and I created like an aluminum box, and I just put it in it, and it just makes it like harder. And once it's done, I can actually remove all the supports that you see on the picture.
Wow.
And then it's like you have to do some post process like sanding it and priming it, which is a lot of work still. But yeah, all that to say that like doing a 3D thing is already something, but preparing it to printing it, and then the post process behind it is like extremely long process.
So to print something like that is like 20 hours.
This one, the one on the left, is it took me like it's like 3 pieces. There's like the body and the base and 2 arms. And in total, it was probably like 24 hours to print. I think. Yeah.
Wow.
The guy on the right, the one that's super complicated, was cumulatively probably something like 45 hours to print.
Wow.
And it's only in medium quality. Eh? If it was in high quality, it would be 4 times the amount of time.
Wow.
So I got to ask, that the structure or the trusses that are there, is that something the printer does automatically, or do you have to design that as well?
Well, you have to choose where they end on the character, but the way that they go down and reach the floor, it's automated. But you can do it yourself, but like there's a software that does it for you, as long as you actually tell him where to grab it, because that's what's important. Like, and there's like many reasons, which I'm not going to get into it because it's extremely technical and like bleh. But basically, in order for it to not warp, or to actually have all the little details really correctly printed and to have the less artifact possible, there's like, I was talking about 4 rules earlier, and basically like they are part of like the rules that like makes it print well, and the end result is this like support system that it comes out of, and then you, like I said, you break it off, sand it.
You know, Chris, I have to say, like I'm sitting here next to 5 different things he printed. The detail is pretty intricate. You know, it doesn't look like something you got out of a gumball machine. Like the detail is there.
Yeah, this one is actually pretty cool. Also, it's gonna be hard. Like it's better to look to see it like in like in image. But like for example, like this is like a character that I printed. It's like in 7 pieces. It's pretty small actually. If you look at it like beside my face, I mean it's like 4 inches. Tall. It's actually pretty small, but the details are pretty good. This company, Formlab, they actually did a really good product with this machine. I mean, it's hard to use. It's complicated. It's toxic. It's a little pain in the ass, but like it's pretty much known as like one of the best printer for amateurs, like people that do it for fun.
Right.
Because like if you ask like a huge company like Onage that prints some of the XM stuff, like they have like, I think they have printers, like they didn't tell me because like they're really secretive about their stuff, but I think they have printers that cost like $300,000.
Yeah.
No printers like that in Montreal?
No, there's no, actually one of my friends wanted to have one in Montreal. Actually, he's talking to me about it, but he has to get like a grant from the government in order to get one. And it's like, it's really hardcore. Because,
so what would happen if, so like, you know, someone in Canada gets one of these Onage type machines?
Well, you know
would
what?
that solve a problem?
It's just one part of the problem, because the other part of the problem is like the post-production after it. Because I know that Onage, even if they print with their super high-end printers, they have like a team of like really good artists in the back that actually make sure that like every surface are polished, and everything is like all the details are not gone and that sort of stuff. Because that's the thing that's tricky, is like when you print something in 3D, you lose a lot of details. So often when I will do something in ZBrush, I will make the details like
+1.
plus
so it gets
one,
to where you want.
because I know that they're going to get sanded off, or like they're going to melt during the well, not melt, but they're going to get smoothed and stuff. Actually, I printed this guy also in 3D and with my printer, but I didn't bring it.
So for now, we're stuck with the ownage process. They still have like their little mini monopoly. And
yeah, I mean, they do so much stuff. It's crazy, and they're good. They're super nice. Also, I print all my stuff there. It's just that you have to wait like a little while before you get your stuff.
I think that's where I was going with it. Is that the weight, right? Like if you had 5 different companies doing this sort of thing, the wait for statue would be a lot less.
Seriously, there needs to be more companies, and it's not for prices question or whatever. It's more for demand. There's so much demand, and I'm pretty sure that like I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure that like ownage, they have like too much work, and they like to say yes. They like to please people, but yeah, they
look at that. Go back one.
This?
What is that?
Oh, that's a project that I did a while ago. I wanted to embody the 7 sins. So
because I think that one is trying to say something to me that I might not like.
Yeah, well, this one is it's gluttony. I really wanted to do like a character that's gluttony, but that's not actually like fat. I wanted to not go to the first idea, so I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna do more like a piranha plant spider-ish character.
So you really have this is macabre.
Oh yeah, I love that. Like Geiger is one of my favorite artists. I love this stuff. There's like another artist that's more recent that I don't remember his name, but he's like doing some super macabre stuff. That's really awesome. Also, he plays like he did like this painting of this like character. It's like he's playing a flute and he has like 10 hands that's like all holding the flute with like all their joints intersected, and it looks super grim. And I really love when I like a piece can make me feel like like this inside, and I love to mix it with like some like sexual things or whatever, just to make it look like
more twisted.
Like I love this like twisted thing. Like I love big mean robots and twisted stuff, and also other stuff. I like cute stuff. I have actually a couple of cute stuff that I'm working on. Like, sorry, I'm jumping. Like,
it's okay. Are you working on Frozen?
No, I'm not. Actually, I'm working on something kind of similar in a sense, but it was more for a friend. But what I'm thinking of doing actually is doing like like chibi, the word chibi, the Japanese word, to say like it's like, oh, it's a cute version, cute small version of something. I'm thinking of like taking a couple of like my horrible characters and making like a chibi cute version of them just for fun.
Oh, well, there are a lot of artists who do that, like Yuminga, for example, Christopher Yuminga. He does a lot of cute versions of Batman. Scotty Young does the same thing, cute version, where it's like, a superhero holding a balloon. And
exactly.
Like
I see. Exactly. I see this one. It's super fun. I like to actually do this.
Yeah, there's like a whole niche for that now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. I just have to make sure that I really get the style correctly, because when you venture in something that's like not really like your predominant style, you have to make sure to at least give something that's like okay, right?
So
I'm gonna have to work on that.
Back to the company for a moment. Some people might ask, are you hiring?
If I'm hiring, oh Jesus Christ, I am hiring all the time. Like,
you guys hear that? His email is.
Yeah, exactly. All my stuff, you can always contact me and everything.
What is your email?
My email is, well, actually, if it's about hiring, I would probably say just go on the website of my company and just go in contact and just write us an email there, because it's important that I see it, but also the co-founder of my company sees it, because we're the two decisive person in the company, and we decide like, we look at the people, we look at their portfolio, we look at their style, we look at what's available for us right now, and we do the mix and matches and all of that.
Freelancing, really. Is what
freelancing, exactly.
Is there something that you're looking for people to do right now?
Right now, we have a couple of things, but they're already ongoing. But what I would suggest is like anybody that's interested to work in like the video game industry, they can see what we're doing on our website. You'll see we worked for so many games. It's most of the stuff we do is video games, because, well, two reasons. That's where we come from. So that's what we are the best at in like the entire production. And also, there are bigger projects. There's more work in video games than there is in collectibles, for example. So for us, it's more viable to actually like to concentrate on video games.
One successful video game probably sells more than every statue.
Hey, have you seen Red Dead Redemption 2 that just came out? The sales, they made, I don't remember the number, I think it was like $700 million in the
Wow.
first day.
Oh my!
Yeah, it's huge. It's even bigger than films. Like the whole
I
gaming
know it
industry.
is. It
It
is. It's
is.
crazy.
It's just yeah, it's amazing. And that actually ties into one of the questions I had, but I think you kind of answered it. Was that on your website, you guys work in different genres. You have film, collectibles, gaming. And my question was, if you had to choose only one genre, what would it be? But it sounds like you already answered that. It sounds like you would stick with gaming.
Well, I mean, as like to be able to pay the bills, it would be gaming
So
for sure.
consistent work.
Yeah, exactly. But like in terms of like what's really passionate for me, it would probably be like collectibles, as long as they let me like do the design also. So I get to do the design, do pretty much the finished stuff, and then like because like I like the collectibles because there's a way to tell like a story behind it and everything, and that's why it's really great for me. But just video game is just like a more like profitable industry and everything, and
Profitable for sure.
yeah, and we're really good at it. So I mean, that's why like we've been working with that many clients and everything, and things are like growing really well for us. Like every year we surpass ourselves in the stuff that we actually get to do. So there's a huge pride for us, and we're really like trying to get better at it and to go like upwards all the time. So it requires a lot of focusing also, right? So this is where like you make a decision like, well, my business is going to be about video games and I have to concentrate on that. But on my free time, for my passion, this is why I do like all the collectibles and everything.
Sure.
So it's like a balance of two things.
Well,
right?
you know what? Why do you have to choose between cheesecake and steak?
Yeah, exactly. You just say you just put the steak on your cheesecake and you just eat it like a sandwich.
Okay, you could do that. But
So-
that's, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just going to say, you guys can finish your food talk, but I was going to move on to the video game portion of our show. Because I'm interested in that kind of background. I was been a gamer since like the 8-bit era. I think you were too. You go back that far. Can you just talk about some of the games, the memorable games that you played growing up, and which were your favorites?
Yeah, well, earlier I mentioned
Mega Man.
I mentioned Mega Man. Like this is something that I've played like so much. I was a big platformer gamer, like the Mario's and that sort of stuff, of course, right? Then like this is when I had like a Nintendo system when I was younger. I played like so many games. So I just thought of something. I remember playing a Batman game, okay? But the Batman game, when I pressed start to play, there was a music at the beginning, and the music starts with a single note that is like 5 seconds long, like and the two first time that I rented that game, I returned it to the video game store because I was like,
broken.
the game does not work. It stalls. I press OK. It says the name of the company, and then it's black, and it says and it stops. And I returned it 2 times, and I remember like second time the guy was like, "It's just the music at the beginning that's like that." And I was like, that was like Batman on Nintendo.
Yeah.
So there we go.
You learned your lesson there.
Yeah, exactly.
It was funny what you mentioned earlier with Mega Man, was you design your own bosses for the levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Me and my buddies, we used to do that too. We play all the Mega Man games. I always do you remember Heat Man? Do you remember Mega Man 2?
Yeah.
Heat Man, and you had to use the bubbles to beat him. Do you remember?
Oh yes, dude, I remember the like the cycle of like the bosses and all that.
Because
stuff.
he would kick our ass every time, and then finally, because this was pre-internet, right? You didn't know how to look this stuff up. And finally you figured out how to beat them.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I mean, did you ever go back and play these old games now?
I actually do, but I have a big problem with like games. There's some games that don't really age well because they're clunky. They move like it seems that you're playing like in Jello when you play with them. Whereas like new game, they're really like they really want to create like a very nice fluid experience and everything. So sometimes I have a hard time, but like once in a while, I'm going to go back to some of the games that were really like something for me. Like I remember like the Chrono Triggers were really, really important for me that game. So I have actually like remember going back to them. The Final Fantasies also, I remember like playing them again. Final Fantasy 3, like Final Fantasy 6 in Japan, 3 in America.
Yeah.
Like those ones were like really great. I really like them. And less on the Nintendo 64 because the Nintendo 64 was like the beginning of the 3D and it was not really
it wasn't great, was it?
Yeah. No, yeah, it was like, oh, we're trying something, but like it was meh. It's kind of like VR right now, it's like I really love VR. I have my own. I play with VR games, and I actually sculpt in VR just to actually get a hang of it. But it's like the games are actually, some of them are really well done. But like I'm sure that like we're gonna look back in like 5 years and we're gonna be like, clearly we did not understand VR correctly in our era right now, and that's what happened with an Nintendo 64, right?
Yeah. Yeah, some of these old games, like for the old like 16-bit games and stuff, like they're hard. They are
Yes, they
hard now,
are.
and like I used to play them as a kid, and it'd be no problem at all. And I go play them now, and I can't even.
I know. Well, you
I
know
can't
what?
get anywhere.
I heard that the point was that there was not many games, and they needed like the people to really play the same game a lot until they make a new one. So that's one of the reasons why
So they made them
make
so
it
damn
harder.
hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
that makes sense.
they knew that the people were not going to just get another easier game, because there was not other easier games, because there was just not much games. And
That-
also, to
That
be
makes
fair,
sense.
Wow, that's inside scoop and the scamming of
Oh
gaming
yes,
and
exactly. No, but to be honest, also game design is an art. Also, psychology. It's a psychology also. So basically, like it got like better with like people understood better like why games were fun with time. And now you can actually have books that's like the 5 pillars of video games and game designs and blah blah blah. And then
Well, I think,
and
yeah.
you see like now there's stuff, but like back in the day, I mean, there was not really much stuff. There was board games, and
Yeah.
now they needed to make it interactive and make it fun at the same time. It was kind of hard.
Well, now you're
Well,
probably getting. Sorry, Gina.
No, go on, Chris.
You're getting gamers making the games now, right? Whereas before it was people coming from board games, like you said, who didn't really get it yet, and so that's probably just part of the cycle that things get to improve.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, plus like all the science that comes, like not the science, but like
The technology
knowledge.
improves. Yeah.
Yeah.
technology and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, I remember when I started gaming, it was actually PC. It was on the PC, and I started with like Doom and Wolfenstein even before that. And I mean, those games weren't necessarily like visually stimulating. I mean, you're walking around a castle and it's just brick walls, and each room looks almost the same.
Yeah, it was
Um,
leaving a lot to the imagination.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and they would just change like maybe the shape of the room, but it's just these like brick walls. So it just in terms of gaming and art and visuals, what game for you has the best or most inspiring visuals?
Oh shit! I mean, this is something I can actually answer differently, like in time. Like for example, like when I was a kid, when I was like a teenager, and like right now, because the first game that comes to mind for right now is going to be something really particular. Do you know the game Cuphead? It's
Yes, Cuphead. And
Cuphead?
that's just made in Canada. Yeah.
It was maybe I actually met one of the animator in Poland. She was there. She made a presentation about that. And like for example, for me, this is one of the most beautiful game that I saw recently. But
Yeah.
it's crazy because it's hand drawn. This
Yes.
game is hand drawn. I mean, the colors were made digitally, and the game was like engineered afterwards to be like an interactive experience. But like everything was like animation was hand drawn and
like a
everything. And it
cartoon.
looks, but it's kind of a game that looks like Felix the Cat. It's really like
Like
1950s.
20s cartoons, like
Yes.
like a Betty Boop and
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Betty Boop, like Mickey Mouse on his steamboat.
What
and,
platform is it? Is it like a mobile game or what's it?
No,
Where do you
it's-
play? PC?
like PS
PC,
yeah,
other
or
stuff.
PS4, I think. But it's
Okay.
so it's sort of stylized. The colors are stylized like those old 1920s cartoons and
Yeah,
Okay, I'll have to check that
that's
one out
amazing
for sure.
choice.
something that's interesting to mention about that game. It's because like nowadays, like people are trying to get like the best graphic, the best shadows, and look at
Yes.
the anti-aliasing in that game. And like this is just graphic. It's not really aesthetic. Like me, I'm more interested by like nice aesthetic choices in games,
Oh,
even
there
if
we
it's
go.
like cartoony or whatever. Like Cuphead is like very very cartoony, but it looks so great. The animations are so nice. For example, Dark Souls. I love Dark Souls. Probably one of my favorite game ever, and one of the most recent game. But it's like graphically, it's not good necessarily, but aesthetically, it is absolutely beautiful. It is
Dark Souls is one of those games that is so hard. Like, I don't know about you. I fired that up. I think it was Dark Souls 2, and I think I died within about 6 seconds.
Yeah,
I turned around and ran off a cliff.
Right.
Yeah.
But how much fun is that?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean,
there should be like an easy mode or something.
actually, not really, because like essentially or psychologically, this game needs to be punishing because
It's
like
a
the whole
punishing game.
experience,
That's the whole
like
point. Yeah.
the lore, the story of your character is living through a punishment, so it needs to be this way. But it's really like when I was talking about like video game, how they got like smarter and more like.
The sadomasochism.
There's a lot of that, seriously. There's a lot of that, but the fact is that they always give you like a little bit of hope that next time is going to be better. And it never feels unjust. And this is why I find that they actually yeah, exactly. There's like, you always feel like you can get a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. There has to be, yeah, you have to have that feeling that you can beat it. Right.
Yes,
That's what keeps you
exactly.
going. It's like, oh, I got to do it again because if I just do this differently,
Yeah,
I can beat it.
Well,
And if
you know
it's
what?
so
Not that
impossible,
different. Yeah, it's not that
then
different than the
you won't
Mega
play.
Man's. Yeah.
they're hard.
Like
Yeah.
the
Those are
Mega
hard.
Mans from like back in the day, they were super hard and they were like about learning patterns and like, oh, next
Mhm.
time I think I can have him because I understood that this time.
Yep.
And it's really great because like you really feel that they give you a bit of information and you actually get to learn a little bit, and it's so rewarding when you actually get it. But this is also part of like my personality. Like I really buck when something doesn't work. I really buck and I really work at it. But like, you know what? In art, it helped me at school because when I thought my anatomy was not right, I was just redoing it, and whatever.
Oh, you
So
got it.
yeah, exactly.
So-
So the same way that I actually approached Dark Souls was the same way. And the same way that I actually decided to do Dark Souls SL1, like, so for the nerds out there, it's basically like Dark Souls SL1 is doing Dark Souls without doing any level up ever, which is basically making the game at least 5-6 times harder. And I actually
Jeez.
put that on myself because I was like, you know what? I want to see how even more of a hard experience I can get, and I want to be able to go through it. So I think that like this maybe is kind of like sadistic, and not sadistic, but sadomasochist in a sense. But like there's something in there that's important. It's like this like drive to want to do something. And just to go back to the whole like characters and models or whatever, it's like an industry that like a lot of people want to do that because it's flashy, it's cool, it's the characters, it's like the spotlight. But at the same time, it's like everybody wants to do it. So basically you really need to want, and you really need to like push yourself a lot. If like there's something that I can say to anybody that aspires to be a character artist, is like you kind of have to feel this, what I'm talking about, where like you really want to push yourself always like more, because like it's true that the bar is very high. It's not unobtainable. I mean, I'm a teacher at school. I do like workshops at a certain school in Paris like every year, and I see a lot of people that starts, and I actually see a lot of profile of people that I was like, oh, I don't know if they're really going to make it or if they actually really want to make it. And then I see them like 4 years later and they work for me. And I'm like, that's cool. I mean, they did it, and I'm super proud of them. And it's just what it is, dedication and patience at the same time, and a little bit of like sadomasochist, maybe I'd say.
So, did you ever break a controller back in the day?
Oh, that's a good stuff. I played a lot of Game Boy when I was a kid, and when I was losing, I was like hitting the Game Boy in my face.
Oh.
But always like just lightly. But one time I actually broke the Game Boy, and I was like, "Dad, can I have a new Game Boy?" And he was like, he actually was able to get one at the store. Like he was still on warranty, and he actually got one. And basically, he told me like, "I hope that there's a lesson to learn in there. And I hope that you learned it." And I was like, "Yes, I did."
Yeah. There was a game on Genesis back in the day. It was Super Monaco GP2. It was called racing game, Formula One.
Yeah, those.
And oh my god, it was the worst. I think I broke 2 controllers playing that game.
Wow.
But you keep playing it because you think, damn it, I'm gonna beat this thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. But also, it's like it's so nerve-wracking because it's like speed and dexterity and that sort of stuff. So it really like goes and gets you like really deep, and not deep, but it really pumps your blood and everything. So like the reactions are very volatile when you actually don't
Well,
have
that's
what you get in those games.
You know what
Yeah.
happens, right? It's you channel into that part of your brain that gives you that feeling of euphoria when you win.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. And when you
So,
get close to, but you don't, and it's like, no.
That's how they create addiction.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you know what's worse than losing to the computer or losing to the game store is losing to a person. That's losing to a real person or being defeated by a real person. I think is even more gut wrenching.
Yeah, I know. I mean, my girlfriend is
How
very.
dare you?
Yeah, exactly. My girlfriend's
like-
really good at this kind of stuff. She's for her it's really important. Like when we have like a disagreement to like talk it over and that sort of stuff. And she taught me a lot of things about like my anger issues and whatever.
Honey, I didn't mean to kill you.
Exactly.
It's not personal.
Not personal.
18 times? Well,
Yeah, sorry. Well, you have 19 lives, so we're good now. But like now she like taught me a lot about like really like just like managing like this like those feelings and everything. But the fact remains that like with a video game, since it doesn't have a soul, I have a hard time to just give it respect also sometimes. Or I mean I should, but I just mean like Dark Souls, when you lose 150 times to the same boss, at some point you're like, if Dark Souls was a human right now, I would probably drown him. Maybe.
Yeah,
Just a little bit.
At
Not-
least
not
punch
until
them
the
in the
end.
face. At least,
Exactly.
yeah.
so Chris and Gina, I thought we can bring this back full circle. What do you think, where do you think this industry is going to be in like 5 years?
Like video games?
Video games, the statues, digital sculpting. I mean,
Oh well,
they
yes,
all
it's-
seem to be using a similar type of.
yes. Well, I mean, it's VR, absolutely VR. I mean, it needs a lot of it needs a lot of work still. Things are not really using their full potential, and they're not really connecting the way that I feel they should be connecting. But for anybody that tried VR, they're going to understand that the sense of presence is so mind-blowing that it is like absolutely something that I see that's going to be the future, either for video game, because like just try to play a video game.
I
in
would
VR,
actually
it's-
like that.
Oh,
I think
it's crazy.
virtual reality,
If-
that might be something I'd
if you come on the island of Montreal, like I'll make you try mine, because it's just crazy sometimes the things that you can live, even for
Wow.
like small experiences. You really see like how being in the presence of everything and being in it is like making things even more realistic, and it connects more with you. So because of that, I know for sure video games are going in that direction. At least I'm not saying that like all the rest is going to go to the trash, but I'm saying like absolutely this is where we're going. And also in terms of like sculpting, there's like a real like there's kind of like a difference between working with traditional medium for like doing a sculpture and working with ZBrush and the things that I'm working with, because it's true that like I'm working on a flat surface. So even if I move the matter and I pull and I do all of that, I actually don't really have it like in front of me. So there's like some things about like perspective and presence sometimes that you're actually missing a little bit. So you have to really like look at it more and longer to really get it sometimes, I find. Or you have to like fool your brain, and you have to put yourself in a weird like bubble to be able to actually really like see it. And in VR, it's there the same way that it's there with traditional mediums and stuff. So I really believe it still needs a lot of work, but I really believe that like traditional sculpting is going to become like the bridge between like the two worlds that exists right now, and it's just going to bring everything that's better of them in the same place.
That's a great answer. Because where I'm thinking is, you're looking at the XM Weapon X, which you saw earlier today, and you look at the XM Ghost Rider, for example, and the details like out of this world, and the Batman Shogun that you're working on.
Yeah.
Like, how much more detail can you put on a piece? Like,
Yeah,
where is that ceiling of super, like at one point it's going to start talking to you. I mean,
yeah, exactly. But in terms of details, I mean, because of like all the technical aspect of like ZBrush, you're able to put like some pretty much like I think like the most realistic kind of details that you could. Like, I mean, in terms of like technical, like it is just the artist and its skills that remains, because I think technically it's there to do like the best stuff. Now I'm talking about something that is in resin and printed, so like there's another discussion to have with like characters that actually have like clothing and stuff, like real materials.
Sure.
It's like something else, right? But in terms of like sculpting, I believe that like ZBrush really can bring like the most like details that you can have. That being said, it's not really in terms of detail that I see that like sorry, that's not what I mean. What I mean is just to go back to like the idea of VR, it's just missing presence. Working in ZBrush, I believe that you can do like pretty much everything. You can do it like to the best, I think. And I would encourage like anybody that's a good traditional sculptor to learn ZBrush. It's not cool to learn a new medium sometimes when you're so good at one. It's the same way with me right now. I'm playing with VR, and I'm so much not good with VR, and it infuriates me. But I know I have to learn it because like that's where we're going, right? But like ZBrush really awesome for doing that kind of stuff. You can do mechanical, you can do a ton of like designs and stuff. But like something that like traditional sculptors that they have, that's a lot of people using ZBrush. I'm gonna like talk against my people for a second, but like a lot of people using ZBrush, the problem that they don't have, that they have is that sometimes in terms of like the foundation of like a pose or the foundation of like an anatomy structure and everything, it's more like the traditional sculptors that have like this like
They haven't
knowledge
made the
and
full transition, is what you're saying?
yes, exactly. I find since ZBrush is like kind of like it's easier to get to a finished product with ZBrush because there's more like
Meaning from
hand
what you have in
holding.
your head and what you have in your final product, because there's more limits with what you can do with your hands than there is with your brain and the computer.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
that what
Plus,
you're trying to say?
yeah, well, kind of, yeah, because like the techniques are like, for example, like if you don't do something well in like traditional sculpting, it can fall apart or it can just look like disgusting. Whereas like in ZBrush, there's like some tools that you can use that can make it look finished, but I can see through the guys, and I feel maybe some people don't.
Yeah,
But
catch him cheating.
sometimes I see like stuff, and like I'm not gonna name anybody because like I really don't want to like hurt anybody's feeling, and they don't deserve it also to be hurt. But like there's some artists that I see their stuff, and I really see that it's like super flashy and there's a ton of details, but under the details, it's not okay. They should put focus on their foundation and not use the shortcuts that technology is providing to you.
You bring up a great point, and that's something that you would see, and that's something that you would buy, right? But I wonder if like that level of detail and intricacy is something like the average fan would notice. I don't know.
I think that all the things about those details, because they're flashy, I think that like instantly they excite you more and they make you feel like it's a greater piece. I think it's a natural thing for your brain to focus on details more than like an empty space, right? So you have like two extremes, noise and nothing. And noise is more exciting than nothing. So if you go like on a grayscale, you'll see that like ZBrush goes more on the side of like noise, or potentially can go there because it's easy to do like noise and detail. And like the eye is attracted to that, but I feel that like there's like so much more to sculpting. Like I said, like the pose of presence, the dynamism, the shapes, like all of that is important. And if you don't have a way to make details easily, then you have to make sure that the rest is well done. And the rest is what I'm talking about, the foundation, the anatomy, the stuff that's really, really the spirit of like characters often. I mean, I love details. I put details everywhere and I love it. But like I try to really, really, really do it in a thoughtful way. I think that's the most important, is like if you have a tool that makes you do something instantly, you have to make sure that you first understand why you're doing it. You have to also know how to do it without the shortcuts, because you have to also like understand where you want to go and not be led by the shortcuts in the technology. Like cloth simulation is something in video games, and I also like use it sometimes for sculptures. But there's like cloth simulation software you can use where you basically do like the pattern, and you're like a seamstress, and you put it on the character, and then you do like go gravity, and then like the thing falls on the character, and there you go. But you see this, often people will do something and they're going to be like, oh, well, the software says that it's realistic, so therefore it's realistic. But the problem is that it's not because it's there's an algorithm that decided that that's how gravity works, that is going to do something that's pleasing to the eye. Like if you 3D scan somebody and you see it in 3D, it doesn't mean it's perfect, because you can look at like all the way that like the wrinkles work around the pants, and it can look weird. Like reality is not perfect in a sense. It's like aesthetic choices and artistic choices that will actually lead a piece to look good. So shortcuts that do things instantly.
Well, that's the fantasy, right?
Yeah, the fantasy is to be able to have everything automated, and like in some ways it kind of works and it kind of helps. But the problem is that you must never lose your artistic side when you're working on something, even if it's like technological. So
well, that's the point, or else it doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah, exactly. But like I feel that like some industries, they want to create product faster, so they're going to rely on shortcuts more, and they're not going to care that it doesn't have like a great essence or whatever. And it's not to like I'm not going to say that. I don't want to name companies also, because Jesus Christ, I mean, it's my domain, and like I still want to have a living, right? But like I see often like the pattern of like some companies to just go for like the easy solution, the automated solution, and sometimes they kind of like forget that they have to put a little bit of themselves
you're in luck, because you're in an industry that rewards detail.
Yeah.
So you're not making the $5 action figure, you know, you're making the $1,000 piece. I was wondering, did you guys have like some more questions before we go into where we can buy the stuff that he's about to make, and you know that's being sold by XM and Sideshow? Are there other questions from the fan base, or did we cover them?
Well, Guile Gambier wants to know if you need a software developer or system administrator. He wants to apply for your company. But
that's cool. Actually, you know what?
Send him an email.
Yeah.
You can always send me an email. Right now, I'm doing more like modeling and design. But I mean, 4 years ago, we were not even thinking that we would be doing what we're doing right now, and we're always expanding. So things can happen. Seriously, we don't even know where we're gonna go, but like we're swimming really far in one direction, but the tides, they lead us sometimes somewhere else. So
he just sent you his resume. He's just typing that here. So keep an eye out for him.
What's great is that this is international, right? The person does not have to live in Montreal.
Yeah, you can tell him I just received the email. So
it's in the inbox, so we're good.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm okay. Gina, do you have anything left to ask? I mean, we're coming up on 2 hours here, so.
I guess one final question would be, I mean, obviously Chaos Mason is sort of a huge part of your career now. So I guess my last question is, what's the most rewarding part about being and starting Chaos Masons?
I can work without wearing any pants, because I work from home.
Yeah, that's what she wanted to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually the nice part about these chat shows too, is you don't have to wear pants, right?
I'm not wearing any pants right now.
We're both not wearing any pants.
High five. No, but seriously, it's to have your own company. It's kind of, people think that you're your own boss when you have your own company. Actually, it feels more like the entire world becomes your own boss when you have your own company, because you're like the one that's leading the ship, so there's so much more responsibilities and everything. But the fact that you know that it's your own company and you did it, and you're kind of like more in control, kind of like gives a nice feeling also. It gives you more responsibility. For me, it makes me feel better also about my future and myself. And if I want to go somewhere else, I can always just decide to change the direction of the ship and to try to lead somewhere else. So this like freedom is actually really, really great in a sense. But it just comes with like so much work and everything, and it's fine. I mean, I could decide to work less, but for the moment, like I still have a couple of years before like I have much more responsibilities in my life. So we're just trying to like push things to go like the furthest possible. We actually hire people to manage, to help us manage the company now, and we're trying to really grow into like something that's like at some point that we're going to be able to be more like the overseer of the whole situation, more than like doing everything. So that's kind of like the idea, right? But like this whole enterprise is just great to wake up in the morning and like to know that like you're in control of your life
Destiny.
even more than you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? I think it's great what you're doing. You know, you're living the dream of this career, right? You're
pretty
owning
cool.
your company. You're releasing stuff simultaneously with Prime One,
Yeah.
XM, Sideshow. I mean, you can't be more in demand or more living the dream of a sculptor than you are now.
Well, I'm
So-
really happy. It really it feels great, seriously.
So, just one other thing we wanted to bring up: a lot of people may not be aware, but the XM Shogun Batman on Armored Steed is an international release. You'll be able to get it at the XM website or through JFX distribution.
GFX.
Chris, did I get that right?
It's GFX.
GFX distribution.
Yeah,
in the
good
States.
people there. We met
So,
them in New York.
Great people. You'll be able to get the Cyborg Superman through the Prime One website.
Yeah.
I don't know if Sideshow is still distributing newer stuff.
Yeah, it's
You
off
guys
and
can
on.
find
Seems
that
off
out.
and on. Yeah.
And then there's
Gina-
of course there's a Sideshow Punisher. That one's not on pre-order yet, but keep your eye on it. I mean, that is amazing. Chris, just before you step in, chances are that we're going to be getting the Punisher, the Sideshow Punisher in a premium format, and we'll likely be getting the Shogun Batman. It'd be great to have you come on board, and we could do mini reviews together. But don't start oh my god, I did analyze it to the nth degree and be perfectionist. Don't drive yourself crazy. It'll be a celebration of the artwork because it's amazing work that you're doing.
I'll bring champagne.
Yeah, let's break it against this glass.
Extreme.
Chris, you wanted to add something?
No, I forget what it was now, so couldn't have been very important. Gina, anything left? Last things to add?
No, I think we've covered a lot of what we wanted to ask.
Yeah, it's been great having you on the show, Marco.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
coming
taking
on
the time
board.
to join
It's
us.
been an absolute pleasure.
Hey, it's been my pleasure.
Yeah.
Seriously, the conversation was actually really fun and all over the place, and I just love to exchange with people. So for me, it's really great. And I just want to say, for anybody that's interested to know about my company, you go on my website, you send me an email. There's some stuff, I'm selling my stuff there also. For anybody that has questions about their future or that they want to know about the industry and that sort of stuff, please also send me emails. I love to do conferences. I love to do those interviews. I teach. I love interacting with people, and I've been there at some point needing help. So if anybody wants to send an email and ask a question, know that I will eventually answer for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And guys, it's very important. As you can see, the company's getting bigger. It's becoming more in demand. So if you do have questions, I highly suggest that you send it. You never know what can come out of this phone call, or what can come out of this email. When he was talking about his background, it seemed like a lot of it was by chance. Talent is one thing, but there's also something about timing. You send him an email, he says the right thing at the right time, and then all of a sudden you find the motivation to move forward. So take advantage of this moment. He's being very generous with his time, very generous with his knowledge, and something can come out of it for you. That's what it's all about. Paying it forward. One day you might be in his position. You might be able to do it for someone else too.
Yeah.
So
That's right. So
once again, thank you
Well
very
said.
much for.
My pleasure.
Merci beaucoup.
Ça fait plaisir. Ça fait plaisir. Yes.
So again, thanks again. So that's Marco Plouffe. Thanks for joining us. chaosmasons.com is his website, so you can check out all his stuff there. So thanks to everyone who joined us today, and we will see you guys next
Thanks,
time.
guys.
All right.
Okay, talk to you
Take
later.
care, guys. And guys.